Hi everyone, welcome back again. Today we'll head on to learn about two-dimensional array, and then we'll learn about data provider. So that will be useful in our day-to-day life, right? Again, so we have already seen about a single dimension array. So which means we have already seen something like this, right? And let's say if you know the size of the array, you can mention it up front. Uh, or if you know the exact elements what you are going to store, you can also mention that, right? So new int array, and then you can mention the elements, right? 3 5 5 6 whatever, right? And mm, I think you don't need to mention this, right? When you are mentioning the um, element itself, right? Again, so this is a two thing. Again, if you want to fetch some values, what we did, we actually used a of 2 or whatever 3, whatever. And in our case, maybe it's b of 1, right? So if it will be of 1, it will fetch you the first index, that is 5, right? So we have already seen this. This is a single dimensional array, and there are multi-dimensional arrays as well, right? You go back to your school days, right? We learned about single dimension, multi-dimension matrix and all that, right? So it's almost similar to that. So we can store integers, or you can have arrays in multi dimensions. For example, this is a two-dimensional array, and in the rows we want to have two rows, and in the columns also we want to have two columns, right? And let's name it a C and a new int array. Sorry guys, you have to define the dimension in the left side. Okay, so 2 and 2, right? So imagine, let's open a paint, and so this is a two-dimensional array, right? This is a two-dimensional array, and this is the index 0 comma 0, correct? Your index starts from 0, and then this is 0th row, first index, first column, and the index of this is 1 comma 0. Okay, the first one is the row, first one is the row, this is the column, right? And this is 1 comma 1. So this is the index, right? So if I store 2 4 6 8, okay. So if somebody is telling, previously we have a single dimension, okay, 0 1 2. So this is a zeroth index, this is the first index, this is the second index. But here we have two index because we need to find a cell. It's a rows and columns, right? So it starts from 0 comma 0, 0 comma 1, 0th row, first column, first 0th column, first row, first column, right? So this is the index. Now we want to store 2 4 6 and 8. So we will store that. So first c of 0 comma 0, right? I want to store 2, right? The same way you can copy it, all the things, okay. And then 0 comma 1, I want to store 4, and 1 comma 0 is basically 6. Whatever you want to store, you can store all of that, okay. So this is 1 comma 1, okay. And then previously we iterated one only once, right? So if you want to print all these elements, what we did a for I, and we iterated till the b dot length, and we print out, right, b of I, right? This is what we did before, right? Here you have to iterate two ways, right? One is row side, one is column side, right? So how will you do that? So first I'll have a for loop, okay, that starts from I and goes till, let's say, this your rows, the number of rows is 2, right? So it has to go till 1. So I'll give 2, which means it will start from 0, it will iterate till 1, okay. So 0 and 1, so 0 and 1, okay, row wise. Again here column also is 2, so I can basically copy this and reuse, okay. But here the variable I have to use j, different variable, because we already used I, so we have to use j, okay. So this is for the row wise you want to iterate, this is for the column wise we want to iterate, and here I want to print. While printing it, we want to print c of two brackets, and you need to mention instead of hard coding 0 comma 0, first time the I value will be 0, j value will be 0. So first time I and j. Now first it will have I value as 0, j value as 0. It will print c of 0 comma 0. Next it will be inside this loop. Okay, so next it comes and increase the j value by 1. So now the j value will be 1, I value is still 0. So I value is still 0, j value will be 1. So 0 comma 1, which will be 4. Okay, now this particular condition is satisfied. Sorry, not satisfied. So what it happens, so this will become 2, right? So this condition does not satisfy, so it breaks this loop and go back now. So while it goes back to this particular loop, it now becomes I becomes 1. Okay, I is now 1. Again the j is 0. So now we have to find 1 comma 0. Okay, the 1 comma 0 is basically 6, right? Now j is 0. Again it will try to increase it. J is now 1. I is already 1. So it will try to find 1 comma 1. So it will print 1 comma 1, that is 8. Now this is also not satisfied. So it go back. I value becomes 2. So the condition does not satisfy. So this will break the loop and comes out. Okay. So let's try to run it. So let me comment out this code. Okay. So that it won't confuse us. Okay, if you notice what's happening, 2, 4, 6, and 8. Again, we can set a debug point. Let's say I set up a debug point here. Okay, just to understand clearly. So if you notice, we are here, and this particular debugging window from IntelliJ is actually showing you a lot of things. Okay, there is a C. It has 0, right? 2 comma 4. So in the 0 comma 0, 0 comma 1, it has 4. 0 comma 0, it has 2. 1 comma 0, it has 6. 1 comma 1, it has 8. So we can actually see what is here, right? Now I want to find what is the value of I, right? So now the I value is 0. Let's do one step over. Okay, let's see what's happening. So if you notice, the I value is now 0. So I can clearly say, okay, I is 0. I'll do one more step over. J value is also 0. So you can also see here, I is 0, J is 0. Here also you can see I is 0, J is 0. So first it will print out 0 comma 0, which is 2. Now I'll do one more step over. So now, see if you notice, it came here. It is now doing the assertion of this. Okay. So now it will check the condition. J is now 1, 1 is less than 2. So it will condition will be satisfied. It will go inside. So now if you notice, J value is 1 now. Okay. J value is 1. Here also you can say J value is 1. Okay. It will step over. So it will print 0 comma 1, that is your 4. It will print it. Now it will again validate. J value will be now increased to 2. It will check the condition. Condition will not be satisfied, so it will not go here. Okay, it will go here. So the condition is not satisfied. Now it went here. Now the I value will be incremented to 1. Okay, so I is now 1. Okay, so I is now 1. It will go inside. J is again 0, so it will print 1 comma 0 now. So same way, it will increase the I value, see J value to 1. 1 comma 1, it will print the value, and then everything is done. It comes out of the for loop. It runs normally, right? So this is how it works, right? So you can put a debug point and see what's happening if you don't understand something. So can you guys understand what I'm doing here? Any doubts in this? Is any doubts?
No, Buddha.
So okay, we are just having a for loop inside another for loop. Okay, so this is called as nested for loops. Okay, good. This is fine, right? Let's say I want to store it's very simple, Amudan. You are like a max teacher. Okay, school days max teacher, they will solve only the example program and they will give hard programs for homework, right? The same way I'm not doing it. Okay, I'm gonna cover something really different, right? Let's say you have a 2 by 3 matrix. Okay, a 3 by 2 matrix. Okay, let's assume you have something like this, 3 by 2. So you or 2 by 3, whatever. So three columns and then two rows. This is be your 2 by 3 matrix, right? 2 by 3 matrix. Okay. If you have something like this, how will you do? Okay. So let's go here, and in the column we have to mention 3 because we have three columns, 1 2 3 columns. Okay, so that's why we have to change it like this. Okay, so 0 comma 1 0 comma, it's all fine. C of 0 comma 2, C of 1 comma 2. Okay, now in the if you want to iterate in the rows, we have only two rows, so we can give two, but here we have three, so we have to give three. Okay, okay, so this is all fine. Now we have two cases, right, where we declared just this and then we added whatever the values we want, right? And then directly we can also give values. Okay, instead of mentioning what is the number of columns, number of rows, we can directly mention the values itself so that it can automatically understand there are three values, so it means the size of three, right? The same way how we can do this. Okay, let's assume I have a int array d. What I'm going to do, so new int array. So we're going to open a curly brace here, right? Previously also we opened a curly brace. Here we open a curly brace and I put a enter because it will be more readable now. Okay. So first set of values is, okay, this is the first set of values. See, I'm wrapping them in the curly brace. After curly brace, again I'm putting a comma and then second set of values. Okay. So now we have almost three set of values. So it's a 3 by 3 matrix. So first row, second row, third row. Okay. So if you want to print all of this, you have to run two for loops. Okay, you have to run less than 3, and you can also copy this, paste it, and then replace this with j. Okay, s out of d comma d of I comma j, right? That's all. So this is how you can declare directly instead of you know adding the values one by one like this. Okay, so this is what you can also do. Why I have covered this? Okay, because this is very important to understand data provider. Okay, we normally don't use two-dimensional array in Java anywhere, but two-dimensional array in Selenium we will use it with data provider. So it is very 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 important for you to understand what is mean by two-dimensional array, what is index of each of these, where the index starts, where the index ends, how many rows, how many columns. So again, to summarize, we can have arrays in two dimensions, which means rows as well as columns. The first brackets indicates the number of rows, the number of rows. The second bracket indicates number of columns. Okay. Okay. So this is very, very important. So you iterate till whatever you want, and then you print the values, whatever you have. Again, sometimes it's not only you can store integers here, you can also store string array as well. So you can also have string arrays, two-dimensional array. So first I have some values. Okay, and at the end I have to put a semicolon, right? So this is a single dimension and you can also add double dimension as well. Okay, so we have first row with the elements of this, second row with the elements of this. This is a 2 by 2 matrix. Okay? It's a 2 by 2 matrix. Okay, so yeah, that's all about it. Again, it's not only you can have only string type, only integers. You can also mix and match. But as we already know, arrays are used to store only one type of similar objects, right? We have already seen about that. Arrays are basically used to store similar objects. But suddenly, if you want to store something different, we have to understand one concept in Java. That's it. All the classes are basically subclasses of object class. There is a class called object. Okay, string, integer, whatever the class is that you see, they are all objects of. They are all subclass of object class. Okay, let's understand. Okay, suppose I want to store numbers also here. One is string, one is number. Okay, I have to store like this. Now this is throwing error because see, you are trying to provide an integer, but all it can store is string type. Okay, okay, I go here and I change it to object array. So now the errors are gone, which means object array is a super class for all the classes in Java. Okay, so you can store any of the things into the object array. It's like a big bucket. You can put any object inside it, you can hold it. But if you go and check the integer class or string class, let's say string class, string dot class. Okay, integer. Let's say this is an integer class, right? This integer class is only extending number class. I could not see anything called as object here, because when you're extending something, we will mention extends and then we'll give some class name, right? Dog extends animal, right? We gave like that. SBI bank extends RBI bank, right? But here there is no such thing. It's only extending number. But all we need to understand is all the classes are basically subclass of object class. It's not something that you have to mention explicitly. It's by default or it's by implicitly it is extending. Okay, so all the classes are basically implicitly extending the object class. So how does an object class look like? Object. Okay, why this is R? You can go inside this. See, this is a public class object, which is the super class for all the objects. Okay, every class has object as the super class. So notice, class object is the root of the class hierarchy. It's a object as a super class. All objects including arrays implement the methods of this. Okay, so it has a lot of methods like hash code and all that. So toString and all will be here. So yeah, so we'll come to more about it. But for now, just understand, if you want to use multiple types, you can basically change to object array, which means it can hold anything. You can hold numbers, it can hold employee class objects, it can hold strings, whatever, decimal points, anything you can store. Okay, that's the beauty about using object. Okay, any doubts so far?
Yes, Amutan, I have.
Yeah.
Amutan, like in the dimensional, can you come above in your code little bit?
Yeah.
Yeah, line number 25. So here you are giving I should be less than 3. So
Yeah.
suppose like for the 2D in which you have declared in line number 22, D dot length I will give, it will give me the number of rows in that two-dimensional array.
Yes, yes, yes.
And
See,
if I
if
want to,
now let's say I got your doubt. Okay, let's say C dot. Let's say length. Okay, let's see what it is printing. Okay, I think it is printing 2, correct?
Yes.
Maybe we would have done c dot length dot s out b. Yeah, if you notice, the c dot length is basically 2. Okay, and c dot, if you try to find anything else, no, you cannot find the all these other things. Okay, how much columns it has?
We cannot get the number of columns dynamically.
I don't think so. Maybe if there is some way, I'll let you know, but I don't think
Okay.
you can do it.
Okay.
But
Okay.
yeah,
Okay.
most probably we won't be using that at all. Okay, so that's the thing. See, that's the reason why we want to define how many values how many values it can store, or what is the size of array in upfront itself.
Hmm.
Let's see whether I can able to get the columns dynamically. Let's see. Okay.
Yeah. Sure.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. Now we have learned all these things. We will take this knowledge to our data provider. Okay. I'll let you know what is data provider. For that, we need to create a new class, data provider test. Okay. Have you came across a scenario? Let's say you have a login page. Okay. It has username, password, and a login button. Okay. You want to verify almost 500 users. Okay. You have to verify almost 500 users or 5 users. You have 5 set of credentials. You want to validate whether all these 5 credentials are logging in or not. Okay. Have you been across this? Mostly, yeah. As a testers, we have all been there, right? So if same set of let's say what you want to do, you want to run a same test case with a different set of test data, with different test data set. Okay, this is very common scenario, right? Login itself, you have to test for hundred different users, because or at least 3 or 5 users, because one will be admin user, one will be common user, one will be super user, different privileged user, right? So same scenario with multiple set of test data. Very simple. Okay, you want to place an e-commerce order. Okay, maybe your application is e-commerce application. You want to place an order, so you want to place an order for a sport item, for a makeup item, for an electronics gadget, for a laptop item. Okay, some different set of test data. Okay, the flow is same, but the only thing that is changing is your test data. So have you been across this? If you are, then instead of creating a lot of tests, okay, for this you can create one simple test. Okay, let's say I have something already created. Where it is. Okay, so I was looking for this particular piece of code so that I can copy paste. Okay, so I'll do close other tabs. I don't need them now. So let me create one at test method. Again, guys, I'm using I might use shortcuts. Okay, so you can see the shortcuts on the top as well. Okay, so this is data provider test. Okay, you have some test like this, and I'm not doing that anymore. So I'm doing this. Okay. So I'm opening the browser. I'm doing the login with this particular test set of test data. Maybe I'm not clicking on the button here. Okay. Because it might go to another page. It will take a lot of time. So I'm just commenting it out, and I'm just putting a wait. Let's say I'm putting thread.sleep of let's say 3 seconds for us to view what's happening, and then I'll throw the exception. Again, now when I throw the exception, you need to know what kind of exception it is. This is a checked exception. That's why it is telling interrupted exception. We don't have to use try catch here, because uh, it is a simple scenario, right? So yeah, now I want to run this with different set of test data. So this is the first. Now the second set of test data is, let's say admin 123, admin 12345, something like this. Maybe you'll name like this, right? So another set of test data, you will create one more test method. So we are repeating all the lines of code. This is unnecessary, right? So what if there is a way where I don't have to create all this, just to change only the test data alone? This is what I want to do. So in those cases, data provider will be really helpful. So what we are going to do? So we're going to tell test method, we are going to use a data provider. Okay. So what is a, so what the name implies? So This it is implying, oh, this particular method, test method, is depending on someone else to feed the test data for it. Okay, what is the method? Okay, what is the method that you are depending on? So I'm depending on a method called as data get data. You can name this method as anything, whatever you want. You can also create a method, alternator, and then create a. So if you notice, we have created a method. So this particular piece of method is data provider. So if you notice, this is a data provider which indicates this is going to supply data for everyone. Hey, if you want data, come to me, I'll give you data. Okay, so, this guy is a very generous guy. This guy is going to supply all the data. And also notice this is returning a two-dimensional object array. This is what we have learned before, right? So this is what you want to return, a two-dimensional object array, right? And if you notice, there are two ways to differentiate as well. So if you want to provide the inline values like this, you can also provide. So you can go here. If you want to provide the inline values, okay, you provide here. What are the values you want to provide? Let's say I want to provide username and password. Admin, admin123. This is the first set of values, right? So first set of values are wrapped in brackets. Next, the second set of values. Okay. Second set of values is admin123 and admin12345. 45, whatever. Okay, what is this? Okay, there is a missing. So admin 12345. Again, guys, you can write it in the same line, or after comma, you can separate this so that you can understand this is the first row, this is the second row. Okay, so now there are two rows and two columns. Okay, suppose you can also add three columns, three rows as well, right? So the number of rows is two, number of columns is three here, right? You all can understand this. Anyone doesn't understand this till here? Okay,
How the column 3?
so good question. So the number of columns is two actually.
Yeah, 2.
Yeah. Okay. So now data provider is very smart. What it does, okay, whatever the number of rows you have, the number of rows is basically equal to number of times it is going to run your test. Okay, and number of columns is equal to number of parameters to your method. Number of okay, very simple. So whatever the number of rows you have, that will be equal to number of time this test will run. Whatever the number of columns, that is also 2, then this number of parameters to your method will also be 2. So let's say number of columns here is 2. So what we are passing, we are passing an username and a password. So I can tell this particular test method is going to have username, string, password. Correct? Because these two are string only. Okay, correct. Now somebody is passing you username and password, then you don't have to hard code, right? So whatever they are passing, I'm gonna send it here. So what happens is, okay, first when it tries to run the data provider, it comes and check whether there is any data provider. That means it will go and check how many number of rows are there. There are two rows. That means this test will be ran two times. First time with this particular set of values, second time with this particular set of values. When it's running for the first time, it will inject, okay, it will inject username as this and password as this. Whatever you mentioned in the first, it will be equal to this. This one will be stored in this. So whatever the values is here, I'm just using that in my code here, and whatever here, I'm just using this here, right? And yeah, now let's try to run it. So when I try to run it, this time it should run how many times? Can you tell how many times? How many times it will run?
Yeah, 2 times.
Okay,
4
let's
times.
What is the number of rows, Kalai?
2.
Then what I have mentioned there? So number of rows will be equal to number of times your test will run. So the first time it is running, the second time it is also running. So if you notice, this has now entered admin 123. One more, in the first time it has entered admin, right? If you notice, first time it used this particular set of values, these two values it will use. Okay. Second time it uses this values. Okay. Now I want to run 3 times. Okay. I'll put one more comma. I'll add. Okay. Now how many times it will run?
3 times.
3 times with
Yes.
these set of values, right?
Yes, sir.
Right. So let me close the already open browsers and let's try to run it again. So it has entered admin. So this is the first time. Wow, it entered admin 123. This is the second one. So admin 1 2 3 4 5 6 7. So it also entered the third one, right? So this is as easy as it, right? We are not writing a lot of code. We just use data provider and we feed it the values. Let's say it's not only that, you might also want to pass more than 2 values, right? Not only username and password you need. In a real time, you might need to pass a lot of values. Let's say I'm also passing something else. Say, for example, I'm giving something. Okay. Maybe let's treat this as a first name. Okay. All the third values will be first name. Then the number of columns, suppose the number of columns here is 3, but you have only 2 parameters. Let's see what is the error it is telling. So it is telling clearly data provider test is failing because there is a, so if you notice, you are basically having 1 2 and 3. You are passing these 3 values, right? But there are only 2 values that is getting accepted here. Data provider mismatch. This is the error. Okay, data provider is mismatched. So because the number of columns will be equal to the number of parameters to your method. Here the number of columns is 3, but it is not equal to 2. If I add one more, then it will be get satisfied. Whatever, right? And maybe I'll just use. Okay, I'm not doing anything with that for now. I'm just printing it. Okay. Now if I run this test, again guys, it is actually running one by one, right? What if there is a way that it runs all these things in parallel, right? How difficult it is going to be if I have to make them run in parallel. If you have to make this run in parallel, just that's it. Okay, you have to add parallel equal to true to data provider. So which means there are 3 tests. It's going to run 3 times because the number of rows is 3. So it is going to run 3 times. Number of columns is 3. So it will inject 3 different things into your data provider test. And again, when you mention parallel equal to true, by default it is parallel equal to false. But if you mention parallel equal to true, all these things going to run in parallel. So if you notice, all the threes are getting started. So 3 browsers are open now. So we are not doing any complicated things, very simple things, right? So it has, see, admin 1 2 3, admin 1 2 3 4 5 7. So all these things are passed, right? So there are 3 tests, 3 of them also got passed. Any doubts in this?
The parallel, that one we can specify in XML file also as well as code also, no?
Yes, yes. In the XML file, if you mention, it will run your test in parallel. Okay, here, this is only one test. Okay,
Okay.
this particular test itself will run in parallel.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, don't confuse too much. For now, just understand only this. We have framework development. There we will understand when to use that, when to use what. Okay. Don't worry about it.
Okay, thank you.
And this particular test method itself will run in parallel. There, two different tests will run in parallel, correct?
Yes, yes.
Yeah, so that is the only difference. Okay, so all you need to remember is data provider is returning object array. Okay, because you can store anything. Suppose you want to store 1, 2, 3 here, you can also store it because this is an object array. It can hold anything. But in this case, since we are all having only string types, right? So I can basically change it to string type. Okay, there is no harm, but your compilers may throw some errors like this. Okay, see, by default it should be object array, why you are all these things, because this is a warning. Okay, but if I try to run the code, it will still work. Okay, this is just a warning, the compiler the IDE warning that is telling, okay, it has to be always object array. But yeah, the things will work. There is no issues with working. Okay, it will work all the past. But yeah, but it's better to always keep this as an object array. Okay, so that your code looks much clean. Okay, good. And now we have seen all these things. Okay, the important thing that we want to highlight is previously we are running just only one test. Okay, but if you notice, we have got 3 pass. There are 3 tests and 3 of them got passed. This is very smart. TestNG is very smart that it can understand you are running 3 test case, right, instead of one. You're running 3 test case. That's why it's very, very smart. And if there is some value that is getting failed, you can easily find, okay, maybe this particular set of test data is alone failing, then you can clearly get the difference. Okay, when I pass this particular set of test data, my application is failing. That's the advantage of using data providers. Now we have learned a lot about data providers, test engine and all that, but if
I
you
have
notice,
one small question. Can I ask now?
yeah, please.
Actually, I missed 3 classes due to some health issues.
Okay.
I didn't watch the video also. At the 15th line, you return new object within the curly braces.
Mhm. Okay, so okay, let's break this down into simple things. Okay, as you have attended today's class, right? So we have
Yes, yes.
written like this, right?
Mm, mm.
As I already mentioned, it's not always mandatory that you have to create a variable and then declare it and then return it. Let's say, let's do it now. Let's make it little simple. Let's not return it directly, and let's cut it. Okay. Instead of I'm returning this, what I'm going to do, I'm going to create one object array that is 2-dimensional. Okay. Object array of A equal to new object array. Okay. And then here I can mention this, right? Right.
Return A.
Yeah, that's it. Got it right.
Yeah, got it, sir.
Okay. So the problem is, see, once you are creating a reference variable, it has to, it is not used that much. So if you notice, the ID is suggesting local variable A is redundant. Hey, you are using this only one time. Why do you want to create a variable and call all that? Make it as an inline variable. Okay, I'll do it. So it just changed to this, right? If
Right.
you're confused, if
No,
you're
no, no.
confused, yeah. So if you're confused, you can create like this and then return it. There is no problem with that. Okay.
No, previous one is fine, sir.
Okay. Yeah. But it's good to know both the ways. So if someone is writing like this, you also need to know how they are doing it. So that's what I told. So it's not always you have to create this. If you are using this one more than one times, then you have to create a variable so that you can point to that same object. But here we are just using it only once, that to directly return it. So that's why we put it as a inline. Again, it is also okay to keep it like this. Okay, good. It's a good doubt and it should be asked so that you all can get clear. Good. Now the thing is, we have produced reports, right? So, but this particular reports are not really appealing, right? So if you show this to your manager, okay, he'll tell, okay, Okay, that's fine, but this still not really good, right? So what else you could do? You can you create more attractive reports? You want to showcase this to clients, right? So whatever the hard work you do, that really doesn't matter, because at the end of the day, the clients will expect you to create more beautiful reports than this, right? um, just a minute, guys, just a minute. Okay, that's why we have some library called as external reports. Okay, these guys have produced a lot of beautiful reports. Okay, since you know uh, our test engine is not able to create good reports. Okay, these guys have done some work and then they have created a lot of good things. Okay, let's say this. Let me try to open their sample report. So if you notice, this is the reports that they have created. So it has screenshots. So it is more beautiful than that before, right? So it has a beautiful UI, very good summaries of how many got passed, how many got failed, who created which test, and all that, right? So yeah, this is more beautiful than this, right? So we have bar diagrams here and all that. Let's see how to create a report like this, and then we'll see how we can integrate with data provider tomorrow. It's going to be really simple, so I'll try to cover this very quickly. So if you go to their website, this is the extendreports.com, and if you go to the top, uh, let me remove all this. Okay, see, I'm not teaching something, you don't have to memorize something. So I'm directly go to their docs, version 5, and we are using Java, so we are going to Java. Version 5 is the latest, right? And if you go scroll down a little bit, so they are telling if you want to use dependency, the maven dependency is this. That's fine. So let's copy this, because our project doesn't know about this knowledge. So let's give the knowledge about. See, we have added this selenium jar, testing jar, all that, right? Same way I'm adding. And the report is version is, say, 5 point. So the latest version, it seems, is 5.0.8, but I already have 5.0.5 in my machine, so it will not take a lot of time to import. So I'll use 5.0.5. Okay. So once this is done, let's also create one more test so that we can understand clearly. Uh, Extend report. See, I'm just trying to create new files because it'll be more easy for you to correlate. Okay, now let me open a main method or a test, whatever you feel comfortable, that's fine. So once we added this dependencies, then what they are telling, let's go a little bit down. So this is the code they are telling. Okay, this is all you have to write. Just copy this code, click on copy, paste it. Now hover your mouse over it and then tell import class, because these are all coming from extend reports. The pom.xml, we added that library, right? It's coming from there. Okay, let's import this class as well. Also, there is one more thing, so import this. So they are all coming from com.evanstack.extend reports library. Okay, so what this code really mean about? So they are creating an object for extend reports class. So we all know, if you want to create an object, they are storing it in reference variable extend, and they are also creating object for one more thing. So if they have multiple reportings, okay, they have HTML reports, email reports, a lot of reports, but all we are worried about is HTML report, right? So that we can send it to clients. So for producing HTML reports, we want to create an object for extend Spark report, and then we need to tell in which part you want to create this, right? Let's say I want to create this in current working directory and index.html. So you all know system.get property user.dar. If you type this, it'll make you to come here to this particular project location, right? I want to create a file index.html in this folder, okay, in the test folder, my project folder itself. The file name should be index.html, right? Why I used index.html instead of report? Okay, if you notice, see, many people use report.html, but if you notice, these guys, TestNG developers are good developers than us. They used a name called index.html. So if they are using something, so which means all the reporting maybe should have the name as index.html, right? So it's not harm to have your own name, amudan.html, but a general convention used in the industry is using index.html for your reporting, so that anyone can understand it. Now we are telling extend.attach reporter. So in this, we are attaching the email part. Okay, you can create HTML, email, multiple reporters, but in our case, whatever the reports we are going to generate, that is extend, we're going to generate in only in the HTML format. So that is the variable, right? Reference we are passing here. Now we want to create first test. Okay, we want to create, maybe this is your login test. Okay, and yeah, once you are creating your login test, so this is your login test, right? So this is your login test. This is your login test. Now, so you have created a new test case. Once you created a new test case, you can just tell log, okay, or pass. I want to mark something as pass. What do you want to tell? Test case login is passed. Whatever, just dummy report. Okay. Once you do all these things, you want to produce the report. Okay. So this is for producing the report. So it basically writes all your code, writes all the lines into the HTML. So we'll come to again this, but yeah, just understand these 3 lines is your base. Okay, first you need to mention these lines that you want to create an object for this extend reports class. You want to create an HTML report object, so you are using extend Spark reporter. Um, and we want to produce the report in this particular path. Okay, these 3 lines are basically the first set of lines. After that, you want to create one particular test, and then we want to flush the reports. Let's run this, and then we'll come back again and understand this code even more in detail. I'm running this code. So if you notice, it has produced an index.html. Let's try to open it. Guys, if you notice, the name that we have given is login test, right? And we have given a name like login test, and the test case login is passed. This is the record that we wrote, right? That is also getting displayed here, right? And if you also notice, there is by default some dashboard view. There is one test that is getting passed. Okay, and we have run only one test, right? So if you notice, we are only using main method, but extend reports doesn't know whether you are using main method at the rate test and all that. If you mention create test once, it means it will be treated as one test case. Okay, next time you mention another create test, this is, let's say, home page test. Okay, so this will be treated as the second test case. Okay, second test case. Wherever you are mentioning create test, it will be treated as a second test case. Okay, so this is home page test is passed. Okay, so there are now 2 test cases. Let's try to run the test and then see what's happening. So it's ran. Let me reload this. So if you notice, this time there is one node for login test, one for homepage test. In the login test, it is mentioning this is intricate level details. This is a test case. Test case can have multiple set of test steps. First test step is passed. Here, homepage test, I'm clicking on this, homepage test is passed. We can add more steps so that we can understand this more clearly. On login test, what I'm going to do, I'm going to add few more lines so that you can understand this more clearly. Test case login. Here, what I can mention is basically username is entered. Okay. Password, forget the typo, guys. Okay. Password is entered, and then I'm mentioning login button is clicked. Okay, then the test is passed. Okay, here again, can homepage test. Uh, Maybe I'll mention just login is successful. Homepage logo, something. Okay. Maybe I'll mention home page logo is displayed. Okay, something like this.
Muthan,
Yeah.
can we add any assertion in the report?
Yeah, we'll do that. Okay, we are not yet
Okay.
there. First, let's do this and then we'll go there. Let's try to run it and see what's happening. Okay, now it is done. So if you notice, if I reload, so the login test is now having username is entered, password is entered, login button is clicked. Test case login is passed. Homepage test, login is successful, homepage logo is displayed, homepage test is passed. So we can write logs for each of the tests. Suppose you want to create one more test, what do you need to do? Can anyone tell if I have to create one more test, what I have to do?
Again, the same piece of code we have to copy and we have to paste.
What is that same piece of code? Can you
Uh,
tell the line numbers?
22nd to 25th.
Okay, so yeah, so you need to copy paste this, create a new test with a new name. Okay, so that it creates a test node here. Okay, and then you get to see the logs again. If you go here, you have test pass, whatever, all that. Let's say this particular test is created by Amol, and then you can also mention login test dot author, right? Assign author. So this is created by, right, and this particular test is basically created. This is homepage test dot assign author, and this is, let's say, Sachin. Again, most of the cases there can be two authors as well, so you can also add two authors. Okay, let's try to run it again. So this particular details will also come there. Okay, so let's go there, and if you notice, there is a new tab here. Okay, if you click on that, okay, Sachin has developed one test and one is also passed. Dravid also developed one test and it is also passed. Amudan developed one and it is also passed. Let's fail whatever Amudan has created. Okay, let's say I just mentioned failed. Okay,
Then I have one question. Can I ask now?
yeah,
At 24th line, assign other. What we can call this one?
this is called as method chaining. Okay, we are not yet there, but we will learn while we develop the framework.
Okay. Thank you, Amidan. Sorry
Okay,
for the interruption.
no problem, guys, but just believe me, I will teach everything, but I'll find the right time to teach this. Okay, so
Okay.
if I teach this, you might get confused. If you don't understand something, that's okay, make a note of it. You can feel free to ask like this, but I'll find right time to explain this. Okay, good. And now let's say let's go there, and if you notice, let's also fail. So I have, instead of pass, I have mentioned failed. So this is failed. That's it, guys. Though this test will be marked as a failure. Let's try to run it again. Okay. So if you notice, login test is now a failure. Okay. And it has clearly mentioned this is failed. And if you go to the reporting, test passed, test failed, one is passed, one is failed. The percentage, you have a clear diagram here, representation. This is the number of logs. Among them, there are almost 7 logs, right? So there are 4 logs in the first test, 3 logs in the second. 6 of them are passed, only one is failed, and this is what being reported here. And this is the time it took to run the test. And if you also notice, Sachin has developed one test and it is also passed. So his success percentage is 100. But Amudan is a very poor guy. He creates very bad quality tests, so it got failed, and he might be have to face some escalation. So yeah, so this is how it is. So you can basically group your test in terms of author, so that you can clearly understand who is developing good quality tests and who is not developing good quality tests, right? Good. Again, you also have an option to not only assign author but also log in test dot. You can assign category. This is a very important test, so it's also part of smoke and it is also part of regression. or this is also part of login test. Okay, login test. And maybe it's also part of regression. I don't think this will work. Maybe I'll give like this. Assign category again. Smoke a regression. Assign category. Again, this is login page, login test or whatever. This guy is also part of homepage test dot assign category. And what is the category? Is let's say this is only regression and this is only homepage test, home test. Okay, whatever. And then you can now if I run this, you can add some, additional details into the external reports. This gives you a lot of flexibilities. Have you noticed? Now we have one more tag here. If we go here, so based on the tag, if you see regression tag is 2 times, and one is passed, one is failed in that regression. What test is passed? What test is failed? If you click it, it will take you to the test dashboard. So you can also see previously we have only author. Now we also have on the base of tags. So the home page test is all getting passed. So there is no problem with that. But if you notice, the login test is having some problems. You need to dig deep and see what is happening here. Okay. So you can get to an idea which functionality in your application is breaking. Okay. You can log all these details into the reports. Okay. Yeah. That's all about. Excuse me, guys. I got a little cold. Okay. So yeah, that's all about it. We will see how we can integrate this with data provider and TestNG, because whatever we have learned is a standalone external reports. Okay. We need to learn how we can integrate this with TestNG. Okay, tomorrow.